Welcome to Verified RX, your prescription for success, brought to you by the Vizient Center for Pharmacy Practice Excellence.
Training the next generation of pharmacy informatics professionals is critical as healthcare technology advances at a rapid rate. With me today to talk about their program are my Vizient colleagues, Dr. Bryan Shaw, Senior Director of Pharmacy Analytics and Informatics, Dr. Purvi Patel, Pharmacy Informatics and Supply Chain Leadership Fellow, and Dr. Bryan Ortega, Pharmacy Informatics and Supply Chain Leadership PGY2 resident. I'm Gretchen Brummel, Pharmacy Executive Director with the Vizient Center for Pharmacy Practice Excellence, and your program host. We are recording on site at the 2022 ASHP Mid-Year Clinical Meeting. Welcome all of you to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gretchen.
Happy to be here.
So what are your roles at Vizient, and what did you do before you came on board?
Thanks, Gretchen. It's Bryan. Graduated from Creighton, worked in Central Illinois at a large health system there, where I had my initial foray in informatics and was working in various clinical positions at the time, and went back into non-traditional PGY1 residency at Northwestern in Chicago, where I continued to pursue some informatics interests and also obviously furthered my training there. I left there and I had the opportunity to be the first resident at Vizient, then based in St. Louis, and we progressed that to be at our headquarters in Dallas. And it's been a phenomenal journey from that point on, and definitely look back on it fondly.
And Purvi, tell us your story.
Hi, everyone. My name is Purvi. I was previously a pharmacy student at Texas Tech School of Pharmacy. And for me, my love of informatics originated from when I was on rotation through my P4 year, as well as my pharmacy intern jobs that I held at an outpatient rehab hospital, as well as a retail pharmacy. And a lot of my projects were geared towards analyzing data, taking large data sets, and creating dashboards. And then I was lucky enough to be a student at Vizient on rotation. Then they offered the opportunity to be a fellow here, and I took it.
Thank you. And Bryan Ortega, what about you?
I'm originally born and raised from Phoenix, Arizona. After undergraduate degree, I went to work in a plant physiology lab, that's where I thought I was going to be doing plant research, benchtop research as my career. Found out I don't really like watching plants grow, and I needed a little bit more patient-centered care, and decided to do pharmacy and completed my College of Pharmacy degree at the University of Utah. And after that, pursued a PGY1 at the University of Texas Medical Branch, where I found passion for informatics and a lot of data analytics. That's why I decided to pursue a PGY2 in pharmacy informatics.
Thank you all for those backgrounds. I really appreciate it. Bryan Shaw, can you tell us a little bit more about the training program here at Vizient?
Yeah, definitely. It's been a passion of ours from the start, and really a huge thanks to our Pharmacy Executive Council as well. They've provided a wealth of knowledge and just insight and wisdom from their years of experience. So we started the program really just as our natural foray into furthering training of pharmacists across the country, and realizing that there was a big need for not just informatics, but our growth in analytics across the country and what we see in our health systems and in the industry as a whole. Pursuing that formal training program was something we felt was within our capabilities, and really we were best suited for it because of our positioning within the industry, and especially with our members and what we see every day, the wealth of data that we see, insights. It never ceases to amaze us. I joke every day, I feel like I learned something new about the company and our capabilities, and it's forever evolving. We crunched the numbers during this conference, and we actually have an 88% retention rate of our own residents.
Fantastic.
It's just amazing. And you look back on that and it shows how successful the program can be, and not only furthering the training of the residents that come through our program and the fellows, but certainly contributing to the success of the company, and look forward to see where it goes. We've developed rotation experiences throughout our pharmacy team, but also going beyond that, because we work across the entire enterprise, and we work closely with our advanced analytics team in Chicago, with our clinical database team there as well, and various experiences within our pharmacy team within sourcing and just really advanced analytics and databasing. And also we have a rotation that's outside of our company with Barnes-Jewish in St. Louis, which really gives that more traditional exposure to pharmacy informatics and operational technology and health records and whatnot from that perspective.
Great background. Thank you for that. Bryan Ortega and Purvi, what interested you in coming to Vizient?
For me, it was going on rotations with many different health institutions you start realizing that a lot of these hospitals are dealing with the same issues, and you're providing site-specific solutions at different places. I wanted to amplify my voice and try to cast a wider net with my impact. Vizient really offered that opportunity, making data-driven solutions for our members. Providing analytical insights into some of the data that we get was absolutely fascinating and something that's very unique to Vizient, that you won't really get that at another residency, at least that I was exposed to during my recruiting process. And on top of that, learning all the technical skills with Power BI, SQL, Excel was really intriguing, but something that Bryan does really well is help develop you as a leader and some of the soft skills that is really important in the pharmacy world. You start noticing that informatics works hand in hand with a lot of pharmacy administrators making strategic decisions as to how to best treat patients, and having data to support your decision making is really important. What Bryan has really showed us throughout my residency experience here has been truly remarkable and something that I could not have anticipated coming into this.
Wonderful comments about your RPD.
I did not prime that one bit.
Purvi, what motivated you?
Since I was a student at Vizient, it was the work culture and the people that I met while I was here for the 6 weeks. I realized that this was the place that I would have the greatest opportunities to grow my technical skills, to be able to build my network, and to learn to excel what I already had and build upon that.
It really is a great place to work, isn't it?
Absolutely. Bryan makes it an awesome place to work.
Bryan Shaw, what sets our program apart from others?
Really just our breadth of knowledge and our viewpoints. A lot of people go into the altitude viewpoint, cloud level. So our hospitals that we work with are certainly at that ground level, providing that direct patient level care and data insights, and more of the health system a little bit higher than that. But we're really at that 15, 20,000 foot viewpoint where we can see things coast to coast, trends, whatever you can imagine from a data perspective. And having that breadth and depth of knowledge coast to coast is essential to what we do, ensuring that we're providing the most actionable data and insights at the right time. That's certainly, I think, one of the biggest differentiators. Another aspect is going into the breadth of data. People typically look at Vizient as a classical GPO, which we are at our core, but we as a company obviously have evolved way beyond that, especially if you look at our clinical database, our operational database, other solutions that we've developed, not just in pharmacy, but in med-surg and supply chain. Our consulting teams are phenomenal. Just having the ability to tap into that from our residency program perspective. And I joke with the residents and fellows that we can do really any experience that we can think of. I can't think of one year where we haven't molded or shaped an experience based on something one of the residents or fellows has found or discovered through discussions with other teammates. Having that flexibility, it just enriches the experience to a point that in other environments would be a little bit more difficult because they don't necessarily have the totality of that experience and ability to really dive deep into the analytics world that we live in every day.
Yeah, so both the customizability as well as the richness of data that you have access to sound like both really key positives to the program. Let's get into some of the specifics of the projects you've been working on this year. What are you really proud of in terms of the work that you've been doing?
The one project that comes to mind when I think of what really stood out that we've worked on is the UDI project that we've been looking at. To give a quick introduction, UDI is the Unapproved Drug Initiative that was established by the FDA to really review medications that were existing prior to the FDA being established to make sure they were safe for patient use. What happened was there was some unintended consequences where the suppliers really gained market exclusivity, and that allowed them to increase their WAC pricing and removed any other suppliers that were in the market at that time. And it really had a huge impact on healthcare costs once it was approved. What Vizient did was they had a market analysis they published in 2020 that really did go into the impact that it has on healthcare spending. For us, that market analysis really caused us to look more deeply into it and therefore create our poster to really analyze how big of that impact it was.
And what did you find?
We ran a validation analysis in similar to the pharmacy market outlook and how close were we section. We went back to the projections for a 24-month period and looked at the actual spend for the 4 medications that we highlighted in the 2020 market analysis. So that included trace element 4, dehydrated alcohol, vasopressin, and selenium. At that time, we estimated about $19 billion in savings during the lifespan of the exclusivity for those medications. And over that 24-month period that we're interested in, March 2020 to March 2022, we anticipated about $2.3 billion being spent on those medications. When we looked at the actual spend during that time, we were remarkably close. We were 0.4% away from that estimated projection. That was primarily based on projections on the price of each of those medications standardized to the same package size, vial strength, and vial size. It's kind of an interesting thing when we look back at the data. We really only made projections on pricing and not necessarily on the number of vials that would be sold or utilization of those products, and yet we were still very close. When we went in and used the Consumer Price Index or CPI to correct for inflation, we found that we were a little bit more off, more closer to like 3% off of what the actual projection was, but still within a reasonably close, over $2 billion of spending for those exclusivities. Some things that we also noticed that we would have just never been able to predict at that time in March 2020, vasopressin, one of the products that did have exclusivity beyond the 2022 time range. There was a federal court case that allowed the introduction of generics into that specific product. And we saw that there was a decrease in overall spend after we had an introduction of new generics. That was definitely something fascinating that we did not anticipate at that time, but we do think that some of the efforts that Vizient made on the behalf of the members to really lobby with government officials and get the voice out of what hospitals are going through really played a big role in making sure that we can get more affordable medications, especially something as important as vasopressin that's really critical to patient care.
Wow, really impressive results and outcomes from both of you on that work. Congratulations for choosing something so impactful and taking it all the way to completion. Appreciate that. To our fellow and resident, what advice do you have for other pharmacy learners who have an interest in informatics?
That's a really interesting question. Sometimes it can be very difficult to learn about informatics. Pharmacy curriculums don't always include that as something that they'll be teaching students. Something that helped me was really pursuing any opportunities for rotations in informatics anywhere that I could get experience in. One thing that's important to really put in context is informatics is really critical to all aspects of the pharmacy medication use system. So that can be in the community setting, the ambulatory care setting, inpatient side. Really anywhere that you're going to be in pharmacy, you will be using some sort of technology, whether it be for dispensing, for tracking, for compliance, and all sorts of aspects. So no matter what rotation you are on, try to take advantage and look at the technology that they're using. They're likely doing some sort of automation. They're likely doing some sort of reporting. And that is an opportunity for students to really get involved and ask more questions about. Preceptors love that. I have noticed that the more that you ask about it, the more that you want to help quality improvement projects. That really goes a long way. When it comes to interviewing with PGY1, PGY2, and fellowships in the future, having those experiences, real world experiences, working in the technology or some sort of reporting system at the pharmacy really goes a long way and makes you a standout candidate in the recruiting process.
And Purvi, what's your advice?
I would say don't limit yourself to pursuing opportunities within your rotation. There's also opportunities you can pursue outside of rotations, outside of what your preceptors assign to you projects. If you're curious about anything, definitely pursue it, look into it. Try to teach yourself if you are not given the opportunity. There's very limited opportunities in informatics. A lot of the schools do not teach about it, do not recognize it, and it's really important that you yourself try to look for those opportunities.
Yeah, I really appreciate you all coming on to share your experiences with our listeners. Anything else you want to share with the audience on this topic?
Yeah, I think just building off to what Bryan and Purvi are talking about, we've partnered with over 15 colleges of pharmacy across the country and for API rotations, and it's seen a phenomenal growth of interest there. So certainly one of my personal interests from a professional standpoint is working through all of our professional organizations and growing those opportunities. We've started a visiting guest resident rotation for PGY2 HSPAL residents from member hospital health systems across the country. We open up those applications in typically the May timeframe to do rotations across the year. So we've had phenomenal residents this year that have completed from across the country already, and that definitely gives them, I think, some deeper exposure and enrichment in that area. Look forward to that growing and hopefully getting some more exposure across the company from that. And further, I think, to grow the knowledge of informatics. The specialty is obviously not going away. It's only growing faster than we can even think about it. Professionally, even within our program, just being able to contribute to that larger vision and growth for the profession is essential, just so that we continue to advance and really operate at the top of our licenses and training, pharmacists and technicians alike.
So the need and the interest is there. Any hopes or plans for program expansion?
Maybe someday soon. You never know.
Great. Well, on that note, thank you all so much for joining us today to share your perspectives, your experience, your expertise. I'm really glad you could all be here.
Thanks, Gretchen.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Please join us for more Verified RX podcasts. Subscribe today, like us, and send us your comments. We'd love to hear from you. Verified RX is your prescription for success and is brought to you by the Vizient Center for Pharmacy Practice Excellence. I'm Gretchen Brummel. Thanks for listening.